No, it's not my fault. Now, if you come from a fairly normal family, I'm sure that you've heard that line before. It's not my fault. Every day we see and hear about people who deny their responsibilities. It's harder perhaps to admit that we also do the very same thing from time to time. We are all good at excuses. Oh yes, those old excuses. Now, I recently heard about some neighbours who were struggling to get along. They just weren't coping with each other. No matter what happened, it was always the fault of the other party. Each one blamed the other. You know what I'm talking about. Now, if you're at odds with your neighbours, do all that you can to resolve that situation. In Mark's Gospel, chapter 12, Jesus was asked, what is the most important commandment in Scripture? He answered, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is, love your neighbour as yourself. There's no other commandment greater than these, Jesus said. There it is, love your neighbour. Of course, we may well ask, who is our neighbour? Have you heard about the parable of the Good Samaritan? A man who cared for someone else, someone he didn't even know, and without worrying about the cost. In that sense, all people are our neighbours, not just those who might live next door to us. Martin Luther once wrote these words, a man is not responsible if a bird flies over his head, but he is responsible if that bird builds a nest in his hair. We live in a world that is saturated with sin. It's all around us to the point where we've become numb to so much of it. Now, while it's true that we're not accountable for all of the sin in the world, we are answerable for the indifference within our own hearts. 1 Peter 5:8 reminds us to stay alert, to watch out, because the great enemy, the devil, he prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. God's grace makes us accountable. Grace demands that we live according to the trust that we have been given. You and I are called to be the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Let's live out the gospel in our lives and speak it out as well in the world in which we live. That certainly is worth thinking about. Have a great week.